Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the elder apostles, the bishops, and the elders of GMS who rule well. Peace and salutations to the elect. My name is Aina. The title of the video is The Bully of the Earth Wants Solely Control GPS. All right, and the bully here I'm talking about is America. And believe it or not, AI too believes it. I didn't have to explain it to it, it just knew. Says the title, The Bully of the Earth Wants Solely Control GPS. And America wants solely, meaning, only by itself control the global positioning system, right? And people use their system, all right? And they have power to shut it off for individuals and cut it and turn it on for individuals, right? And that's America, right? And we know that the banking elites run and control the world, and their weapon, their sword, is America, right? That's why you have these Rothschild families congratulating America for different things we're doing around the world, like taking, Venezuela. You got the Amalekites also, which these banking elites co-sign the small hatters to get in that land of Israel, so Israel can become a state. This is something they wanted because they're the same people. All right, and they used America to push their agenda, which was the petrodollar. Right, you got the Federal Banking Reserve, all that. They own the banks, right, and they control the money. All right, and it just proved that these devils run and control the world, but things are shifting, right? But this is Job 9:24. It says the earth is given in the hand of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof, but not where and who is he? All right, so the earth was given into the hand of the wicked, and he covered the faces of the judges. So we know that these devils were put into power, right? And they hid the fact of who we are, the Israelites, right? That's why you have Psalms 83, where they said, let's cut the name off Israel from being a remembrance, right? It was them who have power now. And even now, it's getting at them so bad that they're trying to delete, the information in the museums, getting rid of it, like slavery. They no longer want to remember it for, such atrocities and things like that they did, but they have to pay for that. All right. Let me grab that real quick. And they're also getting these books with all this different information and changing the information of what the books actually say and putting it into their AI, right? If it said the self-proclaimed white man murdered, a whole, group of Jakes, and whatever year, they changed it to things like a self-proclaimed white man helped a group of Jakes in a certain year, which never happened, So that's what I'm talking about. Revelations 18:6, it says, we reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her, double according to her works. And the cup which she had filled to her double. So when you look around, all the things that they're trying to hide, babies getting fed to alligators, being ripped apart by horses, being tested on and doing surgery on with no anesthesia and things like that, and so on and so forth. The things that you see and read in the books and look at the museums, that's going to be happening to these devils, but double. So you can kind of get an idea of how horrible it's going to be. All right, but going back to my point, the world was given into their hand. All right, kind of lost my point, but getting back to it, the world was given to their hand, and them having and owning the GPS at some point, solely owning it, is a point towards that. It says the bully of the earth wants solely control GPS. It says the United States. Now, mind you, I just said the bully of the earth, and this is how their whole system is working against them. They're trying to use this AI to forward like their new agenda. They're so good, they're so perfect. What is it, Joe? I believe it's 4 or 5, probably 14. Let me see. Where it's talking about let him fall into the devices that he have magic, right? And one device is that he's going to use this AI to trick the people and try to deceive the people as he did before, and get back, that he's like the best thing since sliced bread, right? You get Revelations 20. I'm gonna find the scripture real quick. 1 second. All right, so it's Job 5 and 12. This anyway, Job 5 and 12 is like the perfect scripture for his AI just did 12. It says he disappointed the devices of the crafty so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise. He says he frustrates the plans of schemers so the work of their hands will not succeed. And one of their plans was to use this AI to go back and trick the people like they did before. Right. That's why you hear the elder brothers, Slack, I keep saying like and all of that. Slack it, slack it. But you hear the elder brothers going into the fact that they're tapping back into that pseudoscience, you know, about like race, them being superior and whatnot, and it's all lies. See, pseudo meaning false, says Revelations 20 and 8. I'm sorry, I said it. It says, and when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loose out of his prison, right? So the adversary, it says, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, God and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. So he went out to deceive the nations, right? That's why y'all think he's the best thing since sliced bread, right? He, hid the true judges, which are the Israelites. He whitewashed the images, right? So that's how he deceived the nations into believing that he was, good. And even this GPS is a perfect example, because you had all the nations pretty much using it, and China was probably one of the first ones to switch away from it, which we'll get into. But they just trusted that this devil was gonna, you know, be have honor, have honor, like the knights, how they fight and whatnot. So that I guess they pretty much expected this devil to have honor, which he does not. This is Psalms 55 and 20. It says, he hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softened in oil, where they drawn swords. And this GPS was a major thing that he did. Turning it on and turning it off. Controlling. Right? Please say Psalms 94. Bear with me. Make sure this is still going. They've been cutting it lately. All right, let's get to Psalms 10. Psalms 10 and 5 says, I started at 4. It says, the wicked, through the pride of his countenance, will not seek after Yahweh. Yahweh is not in all his thoughts. His ways are always grievous. Thy judgments are far above out of his sight. As for all his enemies, he puffeth at them. And this AI was a major tool, I would say, back in the day that he used to have advantage over his enemies. And as you're going to see, China was one of them. I'm going to get to it. Now, going back to this AI and the device, where we had Job 5 and 12. So I'm kind of all over the place. Going back to Job 5 and 12, it says he disappointed the devices of the crafty so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise. And this AI is a tool that they're using to try to, again, deceive the masses into believing that, they're perfect, they're good, they never committed a crime, but it's going backwards on a lot of ways. So again, I put this into Google and AI said this: the United States military originally built, owned, and solely controlled the global positioning system, GPS, as a strategic navigation asset, restricting full precision access before opening it up for worldwide civilian use, which was a trap and a snare. Because recently in the Iran war, they was able to spoof, the GPS signal on the missiles that Iran was shooting. And then Iran found out and they stopped using that and they started using China's system, and then they were setting everything on point. So Iran was using American GPS system to try to attack America. America was like, hell no, So the U.S. Department of Defense developed GPS in the 1970s for military navigation and targeting, which Jake woman, Eve, Israelite woman, invented GPS. All right, I looked it up before, and I believe I looked it up before. Now I heard it a long time ago, and pretty much all these different inventions, Jake, the Israelites, we invented these things here in America, right? And that was used to forward America into what they are today, which is the great superpower that the Most High is about to humble greatly, right? That Obadiah 1 goes into the product dying heart have deceived them, says selective availability was a feature used to intentionally degrade civilian GPS accuracy until it was turned off in May 2000. So they even want you to turn down on the right street. That's why sometimes you have GPS saying turn here and you look over there like a bridge or something. Global access expanded over time, allowing public and commercial systems worldwide to rely on the network. Then it says, and you meant something else by the phrase "the belly of the earth." So you should highlight that, or want to explore how other global satellite navigation systems like these change space control. Just let me know. So it knew immediately that the belly of the earth was America. They didn't jump to Russia. They like to jump to Russia, right? Jump to Russia. Jump to China. They didn't jump nowhere else. They say, yeah, United States, big bully. All right. So I just want to point that out. I got these videos here. And this is the one with China. All right. So let's listen to it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This all started over 30 years ago. This is the Yin He, a Chinese container ship. It was en route to Iran when the Central Intelligence Agency claimed that the ship was carrying material to build chemical weapons. The United States told Middle Eastern countries to refuse entry to the Yin He, and they agreed. The ship was stranded in the Indian Ocean for weeks, while the U.S. demanded the ship return to China. Chinese authorities inspected the ship and found no evidence of what the CIA said was aboard. American military aircraft and ships were dispatched, and the U.S. disabled the Chinese vessel's access to GPS. That caused the Yin He to lose navigation, forced them to drop anchor, where it sat for over 3 weeks. Negotiators agreed to let the ship dock in Saudi Arabia, where representatives from the United States, China, and Saudi inspected the vessel and certified that no hazardous cargo was on board. China demanded compensation for economic damages. An American official said no to that, and even refused to apologize, saying that even though the intelligence was bad, that the U.S. had acted in good faith. Those events, transpiring over the course of a month or so, impelled China to develop its own satellite navigation system. At the time, GPS was a monopoly, and the world just learned that the United States could switch it off and strand ships mid-ocean. Chinese media, even today, point to the Yin He incident as their motivation for developing their system, called Beidou. Beidou System 1 was completed in 2000.
And you know, it's like what I want to point out is that different things are happening where the world is finding out that America just controls things. And that goes into what I read earlier, that Job 9:24, where the earth is giving land the wicked. I'm gonna read later on, Joel 3:9, where the weak are proclaiming that they're strong. They're building their own systems. Right. Recently we've seen Iran jump ship and move to Iran system. And you can only imagine who the ones that might follow, you know, Hezbollah, Yemen, you know, and the rest.
2002, and 2 was rolled out in 2012. In 2020, BDS-3 was launched, and today, China's Beidou is more accurate than GPS in many areas of the world. The Chinese system uses 56 satellites, many more than GPS. Beidou also deployed over 10 times as many monitoring and ground stations across the world, especially in the global majority countries, which dramatically improves the accuracy of Beidou compared to GPS in those areas of the world. So with the deployment of BDS-3 in 2020, Beidou had superior coverage over GPS in 165 countries. Said another way, GPS outperforms Beidou in just 30 countries. So in countries outside North America and Western Europe, Beidou is more precise and presents an alternative that cannot be turned off by the Pentagon. And we see here again how the Yin He incident is used by proponents of the Beidou system to sell it. The United States jammed the navigation system of a civilian container ship, which had to drop anchor in the middle of the ocean and wait for the U.S. Navy to tell it where to go. Every country that relies on GPS for their navigation is vulnerable. That vulnerability is what drove China to build Beidou, and it's what drove Iran to ditch their GPS for Beidou after the war last year. During the 12-day war last summer between Iran and Israel and the United States, the Israeli military was successful in jamming Iranian navigation systems, and so after the conflict, Iran went shopping for alternatives. By the time this round began, in late February of 2026, Iran had dumped GPS and moved over to Beidou. These reports are from March, the early days of the conflict, and already it was apparent to intelligence services that the switch to Beidou marked a big upgrade in Iranian capabilities. The Israeli electronic warfare strategies that worked in 2025 suddenly did not anymore. The military-grade BDS-3 is essentially unjammable and uses advanced and complex free copying technology and messaging systems to prevent spoofing. So when Iranian drones were launched toward Israeli targets previously, the IDF could send false targeting data to the inbound munitions and steer them away. That was before. Now the Beidou system filters out that interference, and the positioning success rate holds at 98%. Those are anti-electronic warfare improvements. Electronic count.
You know, so I want to grab this Joel 3:9 because that's what's happening. This is Joel 3:9. It says, "Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all men of war draw near, let them come up. It says, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong." All right, and that's exactly what's happening. The weak are saying that they're strong, you know, and they are strong. The Most High, Yahweh, which I making them strong. And at the same time, the Most High is exposing these devils, you know, here in America for being, you know, weak, truly weak, and unable, you know, to prevent. For real, you know. This is Isaiah 47:1. It says, "Come down and sit in the dust, O Regan, daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans. For thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. Take the millstone and grind meal, uncover thy locks. make bare the leg, uncover the thigh, as for the rivers. Thy nakedness shall be uncovered, yet thy shame shall be seen. I will take vengeance, and I will not meet thee as a man. For the Most High, Yahweh Bashmiel Shah scripting this devil completely down, you know. And you know, my personal opinion, I believe, because with this next video, I believe these devils are being exposed. You know, when I originally found out that when I say exposed, like when I say exposed, is because now they're saying that they have some type of a weapon that they can spoof, you know, the plane with some type of weapon, but they control the GPS. So why would you need to spoof? So you know, we're gonna get into this video, and I believe this is kind of like a cover up. You know, so people may believe that they have a weapon to do that, and it's not the actual GPS. You know, because when I first heard that they were spoofing the missiles for Iran with the GPS and that they own the GPS, I was shocked. I was like, what the hell? So like, what other, you know? So what other things did you control? Like they've been fighting wars where obviously, I guess except for China and I checked Russia, Russia got theirs up in 2007, and we know only just as of recent nations really start moving away from America because you know they thought things were sweet. You know, so America been out here bombing people and just winning wars with people using their GPS probably to shoot back. You know, they got some type of missiles and whatnot, and it was never going to do anything. Just like Iran couldn't actively hit Israel until they switched off that system. You know, then I also thought about 9/11 because these CIA agents were so worried about what China's ship was doing, taking off from his dock and traveling, that they stopped in the middle of the ocean, but not a plane flying low altitude, which would be like a warning, 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 building collision. You know, they be doing that. I don't know. I think they do. But the CIA ain't know nothing about that. But, you know, we know exactly what happened with that. Even, I believe Russia had got some intelligence prior to that to let them know. I think even prior, Russia had got some intelligence prior to the situation with JFK, you know. But, you know, America never acted on that intelligence because it's something they allowed to happen. Right? Just like Larry Loomer, lady or whatever, she said, Larry Loomer, whatever her name is, said something 10 times worse than 9/11 is happening soon. You know, that's what she said. So anyway, I believe now that they're just trying to cover it up and trying to hide this by saying that they're shooting down planes with lasers, you know. But that's just my personal opinion. But it's, at the same time, they're being exposed. You know, this is Luke 8:17. It says, "For nothing is secret that shall not be made manifest, neither anything hid that shall not be known and come abroad." All right, so everyone, you know, he said before in this video that the whole world knew that America can control GPS and do what they do, but Iran just found this thing out, you know, recently. And so they awarded they need to switch over, you know. So people are still catching on to the fact that this devil is just that, the wicked of the earth, you know, and he's been fully exposed. And at the same time, he's trying to, you know, bury the information as it's coming out. So check this one out.
A horrific incident occurred in May, which the Trump regime was covering up, where they were testing new forms of electronic warfare using laser jammers. And apparently, the Trump regime, through these military exercises, struck and killed 4 individuals aboard a.
What was interesting to me is that they didn't test this out in war, you know, or put it on the battlefield, or they block the drones, or wherever the case may be. There's no other reports, you know. They said it was testing it where? You know, where were you testing it? What was flying around it to make you think that this was your target? Because even when the dude said, which in the say, he said when he shot it, he thought it was like a drug cartel type thing. You know, so if you out there testing in the field, why not put it in the actual field, you know, in the middle of the battle and see what's up? So I think it's all lies, you know, but at the same time, hey,
people died from this. Medevac plane. And until Wired just broke the story, this was covered up. 4 people died. There were 2 pilots and there were 2 medical workers who were departing from Roswell, New Mexico.
Suck it. And you got to think about the military jet or the helicopter plane that crashed into the regular plane at the airport. You know, these different plane crashes and things like that. You know, and them controlling the GPS, right? And now they're talking about they got these GPS laser weapons, which they say they got all these different things, but they're getting their ass beat in Iran. They talking about they running out of ammo. You know, they talking about they cloning people, right? They got secret weapons that can shoot you in the forehead from this feet away and all of that, which a lot of stuff they could be saving for Jacob's Trouble. But I believe a lot of this stuff they just don't got. You know, we know they got the robot dogs and all of that. You know, but a lot of these things that they say they got, I don't believe they really got. You know, but we'll have to see. You know, at the end of the day, it's gonna be like a Jacob's Trouble is gonna be a day like never before. But the Lord's elect, Lord willing, I'm of that member. We're gonna be protected. You know, we don't have to worry about it anyway. So they can have it or don't have it. You know.
Mexico. They were heading west for the small mountain village nearby, and the crew became victim of an electronic warfare exercise being conducted at the nearby White Sands missile range, a test which rendered their navigational system inoperable due to a combination of low visibility and an air traffic control that was stretched far beyond capacity. At least 3 other planes reported navigation disruptions due to GPS jamming. The pilots failed to register a mountainous formation between their plane and the landing strip. As airline pilot and aviation crash analyst Juan Brown told Wired, the visual effect of that approach would have been stupefying. When those lights go out, man, you know you are big trouble. The disoriented crew ran straight into the side of that mountain in New Mexico they never saw. It resulted in the life of everyone on board as a result of the military testing out this GPS jammer. And now this is shedding light on another incident that took place recently. Recall, as the Futurism article states, when the Federal Aviation Administration shut down air traffic to El Paso Airport earlier this year, it was because of an experimental high-energy laser weapon. That's why they were doing it. After days of chaos and speculation, it was revealed that Customs and Border Patrol officials working with the Pentagon and working with others were testing this laser, a laser.
You know, so, and let me get this, because these devils probably just trying to cover it up now. You know, people are knowing that that they're using these different, the GPS to just throw people off. All right. And they don't want to get caught up out here, you know. So they say, oh, we're testing a weapon. But Proverbs 4:16 says this. It says, let's start at Proverbs 4:14. It says, enter not into the path of the wicked, and go not in the way of evil men. Avoid it, pass not by it, turn from it, and pass away. For they sleep not, except they have done mischief, and their sleep is taken away unless they cause some to fall. Esau out here just GPS jamming planes and all type of things just because that's what he do, you know? And he can't escape it. That's just in him to do that, right? That's why you have Obadiah 1:18 that says after 1,000 years of getting double slavery, they're going to be done away with as a nation, all right? Because they just that wicked. I mean, and pretty much, you know, I just want to shine a light on that. More shame to explain on this devil's rolling, right? Lord willing, we were edified from this lesson. Shalom to the hopeful elect, which consists of men, women, and children. Shalom.